Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottama.
Naram Chaiva Narottama.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tado Jayamudiraye.
Tado Jayamudiraye.
Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavatyotama Shloke.
Bhagavatyotama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very into conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayana, unto Narayana, the ancient supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasa, the author. My regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, my regular services of pure devotee, all the disruptions of the heart of almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, through grace of transcendental songs, established as a miracle of God.
So yeah, Uttama Shloka, Uttama is highest shlokas, verses. So one is glorified by transcendental verses or songs. That's Krishna. It used to be, he took some, what's his name from Russia? But the Sadhu Maharaj. His name used to be Uttama Shloka. Alright, so reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11. You can do text 30 to end of the chapter 39. So anyone remember what's going on right now? What's Krishna doing? He's arriving in Dwarka. Yeah, he's gone. Yes, he was gone for the war actually. He's gone, and then the war ended, and the Pandavas, they all asked him, please stick around. Basically can't live without you. Stay. So he stayed for a little longer, and now he's coming back. So yeah, imagine like a whole war has happened, and basically your most worshipful and worshipable and the apple of the eye for the whole city. Of course, he's God also. But also, yeah, because the thing with Krishna is like it's not just they don't just love him because he's God. They love him because he's cool. They love him because he's a nice person. It's not just I was taking a class the other day, and it was they were talking about leadership, and they were saying there's two authorities: there's moral authority and institutional authority. And they were saying it both has to be. They can't just be like, well, I am God, and that's it. And moral authority being like, there has to be people have to also appreciate like you have to appreciate and so forth. So yeah, with Krishna, it's not just like, oh, I'm God. Hence, that idea of God is more in the awe and reverence, mood, and it's there in our scriptures too. Lord Vishnu, even he's very soft actually, but he's a little more the awe and reverence side. But sometimes in other religions that comes up more, where it's like, thou shalt follow us, there will be a thunderstorm. It's more, that's actually more of the mood of the, that's not a verse from any other script, just making it up. But there is in the Bible, or not Bible, what's the previous one? No, in between. So yeah, Old Testament, yeah. It says, right, I'm a jealous God or something like that. And when I was in Israel on my pilgrimage to India, when I trekked like out of Manchester, I just went for a study abroad semester. And the devotees, they were sharing, one of the devotees, like Guna Avatar, was sharing, he was like, it's peculiar that God would say that, I'm a jealous God. And why does God have to be jealous? God is God. God has everything. And which actually, we will see that in these verses, how Krishna, even though he has this one-on-one relationship with everybody, which I think Shama was making the point yesterday, right? Imagine like having a relationship with each and everybody, right? This even in Gainesville was like 150,000 people. And then Alachua County, there was 250,000 people. So just having that one-on-one relationship, it's not possible for an average soul. But Krishna has that one-on-one, and at the same time, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is very unique to Krishna that he's doing that. But in our scriptures, that thunderstorm thing is more with the demigods, I guess. And that was the devotee's point also. He said that when that statement is made that I'm a jealous God, he said it sounds more like a high-ranking demigod, like Brahma or Indra or somebody like that. And because Indra was like, you don't worship me, here's the what was the clouds, the Samvartika, the cause the destruction of the universe.
Really quick, I've been waiting to say this, but so Abraham is in the Old Testament, and his wife is named Sarah, and actually there's a theory that it's Brahma and Sarvasachi, which would mean basically the Abrahamic religions are Brahma deities, which would make sense in perspective of what they believe and preach from.
Brahma what?
Like Brahma believers, like
Lord Brahma.
Yeah,
I see.
that basically that's where the creation story came from, because he created the universe. It's just like a condensed version.
And then the wife was Saraswati, is that what you said? I see.
Her name's Sarah or Sarah.
Oh yeah, Saraswati. Okay, that makes sense. Because yeah, she is. I believe she's Lord Brahma's consort, unless I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that, but they're often sometimes they're shown together. All right. Okay, let's do the translation for the verses. We start with the 30th verse and then go forward there. Start there. Thereafter, the Lord entered his palaces, which were perfect to the fullest extent. His wives lived in them, and they numbered over 16,000.
Kings of Lord Sri Krishna rejoiced within their minds to see their husband home after a long period abroad. The queens got up at once from their seats and meditations. As was socially customary, they covered their faces shyly and looked about coyly.
The insuperable ecstasy was so strong that the queens, who were shy, first embraced the Lord in the innermost recesses of their hearts. Then they embraced him visually, and then they sent their sons to embrace him, which is equal to personal embracing. But, O chief amongst the Brigus, though they tried to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed tears.
Although Lord Sri Krishna was constantly by their sides, as well as exclusively alone, his feet appeared to them to be newer and newer. The goddess of fortune, although by nature always restless and moving, could not quit the Lord's feet. So what woman could be detached from those feet, having once taken shelter of them?
The Lord was pacified after killing those kings who brought earth and sun to the earth. They were puffed up with their military strength, their horses, elephants, chariots, infantry, etc. He himself was not a party in the fight, he simply created hostility between the powerful administrators, and they fought amongst themselves. He was like the wind, which causes friction between bamboos and so sparks a fire.
That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, appeared on this planet by his internal potency and enjoyed himself amongst competent women as if he were engaging in mundane affairs.
Although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical feats and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord.
The common materialistic conditioned souls speculate that the Lord is one of them. Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by a matter, although he is unattached.
This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by the material qualities.
The simple and delicate women truly thought that Lord Sri Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and was dominated by them. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband, as atheists were unaware of him as the supreme controller.
I remember, I don't know if this is actually true from the Bible. It's a joke. Mentioned it. He was talking about how, Jesus went and he came back and he was the Messiah. And then somebody told somebody, they're like, oh, the Messiah is here. I said, who is it? It's like, oh, Jesus Christ. And he goes, oh, the carpenter's son? So makes me just think of that when this verse is lost. Whereas a simple and delicate woman truly thought that Lord Sri Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and was dominated by them. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband, as the atheists are unaware of him as the supreme controller. So yeah, it's so interesting that even though they are the greatest devotees of Krishna, it's funny that the Bhagavatam compares them to the atheists who are unaware of him as a supreme controller. But of course, they're not like atheists. It's a metaphor, and but they're so much in love with him as a person. They just kind of forget or don't really think about it, just totally aloof, unaware of it. That he has so much, he's so glorious, and they see him as their handpicked husband. That's also there in the Bhagavatam somewhere. That they see it's a handpicked husband. So these are devotees who have these really deep and intimate relationship with Krishna, and Krishna likes it. Krishna wants those relationships. Krishna's not dissatisfied by being the supreme controller of everything. That's there, of course, but that Krishna as the person wants these deep relationships, and that's why, as part and parcel of Krishna, we want deep relationships in our lives. There's nothing that really fulfills, our hearts than deep relationships, and we get that because we're part and parcel with Krishna. So, any thoughts or comments before we go to the verse on anything? Thoughts about the mics?
Yeah, just reminded me, I think it was Gridananda said that Krishna isn't God playing as a cowherd boy. He's a cowherd boy who sometimes has to act as God.
All right, let's do the verse for the day. It's 38. Etadishanam ishasya prakritisto pitat gune न युज्यते सदात्मस्ते यथा बुद्धिस्तदाश्रया एतदीशनमीशस्य प्रकृतिस्थोऽपि तद्गुणे 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 न युज्यते सदात्मस्ते यथा बुद्धिस्तदाश्रया This Ishanam divinity, Ishasya of the personality of God, Prakriti-sta being in contact with material nature, Api in spite of, Tadgune by the qualities, now never. Yujyate is effective, Sada Atmaste are those who are situated in eternity. Yatha as is, Buddhi intelligence, Tat the Lord, Ashraya those who are under the shelter of. Translation together. This is the divinity of the personality of God. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who take the shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by material qualities. Like the perfect.
In Vedic literature, Shruti and Smriti, it is affirmed that in the divinity there is nothing material. He is transcendental, nirgunha, the supreme cognizant. Hari, or the personality of Godhead, is the supreme transcendental person situated beyond the range of material affection. These statements are also confirmed even by Acharya Shankara. One may argue that his relation with the goddesses of fortune may be transcendental. But what about his relation with the Yadu dynasty, being born in that family, or his killing the non-believers like Jarasandha and other asuras directly in contact with the modes of material nature? The answer is that the divinity of the personality of Godhead is never in contact with the qualities of material nature in any circumstances. Actually, he is in contact with such qualities because he is the ultimate source of everything, yet he is above the actions of such qualities. He is known, therefore, as Yogeshvara, or the master of mystic power, or in other words, the all-powerful. Even his learned devotees are not affected by the influence of the material modes. The great 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan all came from greatly rich and aristocratic families, but when they adopted the life of mendicants at Vrindavan, superficially they appeared to be in a wretched condition of life, but factually they were the richest of all in spiritual values. Such Mahabhagavats, or first-grade devotees, although moving amongst men, are not contaminated by honor or insult. hunger or satisfaction, sleep or wakefulness, which are all resultant actions of the three modes of material nature. Similarly, some of them are engaged in worldly dealings, yet are unaffected. Unless these neutralities of life are there, one cannot be considered situated in transcendence. The divinity and his associates are on the same transcendental plane, and their glories are always sanctioned by the action of Yoga Maya, or the internal potency of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord are always transcendental, even if they are sometimes found to have fallen in their behavior. The Lord emphatically declares in the Bhagavad Gita 9:30 that even if an unalloyed devotee is found to be fallen due to a previous material contamination, he is nevertheless to be accepted as fully transcendental because of his being engaged cent per cent in the devotional service of the Lord. The Lord protects him always because of his rendering service unto him, and the fallen conditions are to be considered accidental and temporary. They will vanish in no time.
So yeah, there's so many good points here, and I was thinking about the Goswamis. So the 6 Goswamis is described that they're really, really rich materially, and they had so much wealth that you could fill up a few Olympic-sized swimming pools with gold, jewels, whatever else that is. That's out there. And then one by one, they were brainwashed and they joined the cult. And then the Hare Krishna movement got all that gold. Because there's one student who told somebody, I think he told Advaita Prabhu, right? He was like, you take the money, right, of the people who join, you get the students to join and you take their money. I'm like, what money? Where is it? For life. Oh, wow. Can't get out. You ready to get out, Nate? Of this cult. But yeah, it's so many misconceptions. But it's interesting because these misconceptions have been around for a really long time. And you can see how even about Krishna, there were misconceptions. They just saw him as an ordinary person. So and then his followers and the acharyas, people also didn't see them as just ordinary cult leaders. And then of course their followers, they see them as brainwashed people. But yeah, it's gonna be there because it was also there when Krishna was there. And there was this one time in the Krishna book, it talks about how there was this one king, the king of Kashi, and he was quite envious of Krishna. He was so envious. He was so envious that he sent a messenger to the court of Dwarka, and Krishna was there with with Ugrasena was the head. He was like the king technically, and Krishna's grandfather, and everybody else. The whole Vrishni dynasty was there. Param was there, other warriors. So this messenger comes and he goes, I have been sent by the king of Kashi. And the king of Kashi says, I am Vishnu. And, and he says, you give up your false, your arms, the forearms, you give up the Sudarshan Chakra, the disc, give up all those symbols of Vishnu. He was so envious that he had the arrogance and the boldness to send a messenger to say this to Krishna. And when this messenger was saying all this, just imagine a whole, assembly, like an amphitheater full of warriors who were of Krishna's family, and they were laughing. They were just like rolling and laughing and laughing. The only person who was silent was Krishna. He didn't laugh. He's heard the guy. And then Krishna said, all right, you can give him this message back. He said, I'll give up these items. I'll give up the disc that will cut his head off from his neck. And so he said that to the messenger, went back. And then Krishna went and attacked Kashi. And when he went there, he saw that, what's his name? Pondraka, right? Yeah. Pondraka was there, and such an interesting guy. Must have some disorder. But but he was there with 2 fake arms attached to his body. And I don't know what they're made out of, but yeah, 2 fake arms with with this fake disc, I guess, made out of styrofoam. And all the other pretend Vishnu, the things that Vishnu holds, the conch shell, the disc, the club, and the lotus. And so he was just standing there like, I'm Vishnu. And Krishna's like, well, you wanted, yeah, again, like, you wanted me to give up the Sudarshan Chakra? Here it is. So I gave it up, and of course, Pandrika was defeated. All the residents of Kashi were supportive of their king. They're all like waiting, for Pandrika to come back victorious. And so when the disc cut his head off, and the head with the disc, made it fly and fall in Kashi, and all the residents, they were like, oh yeah, must be Krishna's head. They look closer, like, no, it's our king. And then the king's son came and attacked, and he was defeated as well. But yeah, just that strong envy has always been there, towards Krishna. And so of course that translates into, every spirit soul, every individual has that free will, to see Krishna in a certain way. And so, they'll have different feeling towards them in the different points in the journey in this material world. At some point, we might have been envious of Krishna and so forth. There's another story of when Krishna came as Vamana, and he went to the court of Bali, and Bali's sister, she was attracted to Vamana because he was like this little boy, So she was like, oh, this cute little boy. And so she was attracted, and she wanted to be like his mother. But in the end, when Vamana Dev tied up King Bali, then she was really upset. She was like, I want to kill him. So it went quite drastic from like, oh, this cute boy, to like, I want to kill him. Okay. And so the next lifetime she came as, anyone know who she came as? As Putana, yeah. And so she came as Putana, and then so she had she breastfed Krishna for a brief time, and then he sucked the life out of her, and then so she got both opportunities of being envious and showing some motherly affection. But Krishna was so kind that he only took the motherly affection, and he gave her a position of a nurse in the spiritual world. So yeah, these, and then we see since Prabhupada came, there's, and actually before Prabhupada also Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there were so many people who were envious and so forth, and didn't really like the Hare Krishna movement. Bhaktisiddhanta said that it is a sign of preaching. It's a sign that preaching is working when there is some pushback, basically. So if that ever happens, like it happened to Jackson yesterday, he was doing books, and one of our university contacts, who I normally deal with regularly, she stopped at his book table and she said, oh, what is this philosophy? Just kidding, I shouldn't say that. They said that, oh, you're not supposed to do this here. You don't have a permit for this book table. I don't know what tones they use, but I'm just being dramatic. But yeah, they were like, you can't set up this table, can't do this. And I was thinking, well, what about that guy in the back with the mic and everything, and whoever else is there at the plaza? Do they have a permit? Anyways, but I was just thinking, like, yeah, when there's real outreach, real preaching, there's a little bit of a pushback, and so it's to be expected, and it's a good sign. Like, okay, well, that means we're making a difference, or people are noticing and so forth. And of course, we don't have to be in people's faces to elicit that reaction, also. But it just happens. So my point being, yeah, it's it was always there, towards Krishna, towards his followers, towards his disciples, and of course with Jesus also we see, like, and he got crucified. So, and then his followers were like fed to the lions, and so it took a while for Christians to establish Christianity, like 2,000 years. So yeah, that will naturally happen when somebody is really, trying to spread religion. Like going back to the verse, and so the verse itself says that similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by material qualities, just like Krishna. So Krishna might appear like a regular guy, rather male, blue guy, I guess. He was blue. How did they think he was regular? So one has to be so blind, actually, that Krishna had not just his appearance, but also so many great qualities, and those who were learned, those who were great devotees, they could see. Bhishma Dev could see. Who else? Of course, Akrura, but Vidura could see. They could all see. They were like, yeah, this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It was just obvious. But those who were envious is, even when Krishna went to the court of the Kauravas, because he tried to mediate one last time, he tried to negotiate. He told them, just give the Pandavas 5 villages to govern, and their administrators, they have to rule something. That's their varna, that's their dharma. So they have to do it. And then Duryodhana famously said that I won't even give them enough land to put a pin on. And so at that point, Krishna was like, all right. And then at that point, Duryodhana said, arrest this, coward boy, coward man at that point it is. And, arrest this Gwala in the famous Mahabharata TV show, as he said. Arrest this coward man. And at that point, Krishna showed his partial universal form. And so when he did that, Dhritarashtra, who was blind, could actually feel it. And he could feel it, but even then, he didn't stop his sons from going to war. He didn't give good advice to his sons. So, if there's envy in the heart, then they're not able to see. It's not able to see, even though Krishna is there and he shows his various glories and qualities. But so same like Krishna, the devotees also have taken shelter of the Lord, do not become influenced with material qualities. What are some material qualities people are normally influenced by that devotees are not influenced by? What are some common ones? And I was saying, what are some qualities like there? Wait, I don't get it. Fame. Oh, I see fame. Yeah. Anger, greed, and arrogance. Yeah. Right. All right. Yeah. Yes, true. Oh, they are, of course, to varying degrees. I guess I'm talking about, the devotees have taken shelter. They're not influenced by it. Yeah, what are some? But even then, of course, it depends on the devotee and what stage of Krishna consciousness they're at. We're not all pure devotees here, except Jackson. But, so we're influenced to some degree for sure. But even then, you can see, the average Joe out there, how they're affected by certain things. This one.
Fear of death.
Fear of death, yes. Well, that's what it was for sure. Equality. So if someone's being loud, the devotee is not affected by it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
It's just kind of, even though it is loud.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm exactly catching. My question was, what are some, qualities or things that the regular are affected by it, and devotees are not necessarily affected by it. So one was, you said they're not affected by loud things.
I guess
I guess they're not disturbed as easily, perhaps. I think quality is the wrong word for that. But material things, I guess, put it that way. Yeah, so too strong and prevalent in the world out there. Yeah. Anything else?
I feel like Curly's point, at least what I thought when she said it, was more like people can be enamored by a showy personality.
Oh, is that too? Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Especially in Krishna consciousness, we want to see some depth. That's that saying, empty vessel is always louder than something that's full. So that makes sense. There's so many material qualities or things that people get really affected by, and when one really starts really internalizing Krishna consciousness, then they're not as affected by what's going on as much, and so they're not affected by how somebody else is behaving and so forth. And that's the goal. That's the goal that we work towards that. And the first step is setting ourselves up in the mode of goodness. But that's not enough. There's a lot of people who are in the mode of goodness in this world, actually, not just devotees. And just even in the regular context, there are people, they exercise, they're healthy, they're eating really well, and they only eat quinoa and whatever else that's out there. And they only eat local GMO or their own garden, which is all great things. I'm not trying to mock it, but my point being that like that's out there and people do it, and some devotees also do it or they don't do it, and they eat gulab jamuns instead. But the point being, more goodness by itself is not enough, and because even regular folks, they do all kinds of things that keep them in shape and keeps their mind alert and so forth. And the point, yes, the point is that more goodness is not enough. So after more goodness, one has to actually transcend, and one does that by practicing bhakti yoga, by doing our activities like kirtan and japa. And that's where we have to really go deeper. And it's not like non-devotees are terrible and they're just totally affected by material qualities, and devotees are like, yay, you're just transcendental. It's a gradation, and it takes a lifetime or lifetimes to really go deeper in Krishna consciousness and not be affected by the many material qualities that this material world offers. But the point is that one cannot just stay in the mode of goodness. One actually has to practice these various things, and that's why. Before I go,
one thing I remember, it's general quality. Devotees strict with themselves, lenient towards others. It's the other way around. With materials.
Yep.
Goodness that His Holiness Divamrita Swami describes, that what you think people have more than goodness is actually peaceful passion, because more than goodness actually that you follow negative principles of freedom, and you also have a knowledge of the soul, as the Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter verse 20 describes. Then you like really elevate it. You can say that this is goodness of Brahman. But people in this world, they just take care of themselves, but it's really not yet.
It's not really what?
Not really goodness yet.
Goodness, I see. Yeah. And of course, more goodness, the more they always like go in cycles. Goodness gets covered by passion by ignorance, and then it goes, then they're like, oh, no, I gotta go back to what my routine was, my more goodness routine. Go back to it, and it keeps going back and forth. So it's never really, no one really ever stays in the more goodness platform, at least permanently. But yeah, transcendental activities like, we have japa, and the Goswamis, that was their biggest thing. They would do so much. They would preach and they would do japa, and they would of course write a lot of spiritual literature. But for us, outreach, preaching, and japa, our personal sadhana, goes hand in hand. They both feed each other, and so the more we reach out and try to help people in Krishna consciousness, the more we'll be inspired to do our sadhana better. The more we do our sadhana better, the more we're inspired to share that with others. So both of them go hand in hand, So, but it's crucial that one develops a personal sadhana, so as to be able to share Krishna consciousness with others. And that's why we have the japa time in the morning for japa. But yeah, it's just so crucial to develop that personal relationship with Krishna, because in japa time it's us and there's Krishna, and we're chanting his names and so forth. So yeah, japa is so crucial. And there's another point I was thinking from the purport, was that just talking about having faith in Krishna. And I was thinking, what is it that builds our faith in Krishna as God or as a person? And I wanted to ask you actually, what have been some things in your lives that has just really just has given you faith, I guess, in Krishna process? That's it.
Intense uncertainty.
Intense uncertainty.
Being in situations that are like surreally uncertain, to the point where it's like, oh, this is so intense that there's nowhere else for me to look but to Krishna.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. When Prabhupada says, if you put your stock, don't put your stock in the material world. You put your stock in the material world, but the material was totally uncertain. Things change all the time, you know. Yeah, it's nuts. So the only steady thing is Krishna. Thanks for us.
I have a few things. One, the devotees of Krishna, meeting my guru and other gurus, and seeing their qualities and their advancement. And I remember I was searching for, you know, I want to find someone who's fully enlightened because I want to be fully enlightened, you know, and just meeting the devotees and seeing that spirituality was not a one time a week thing, but a every moment thing. And I feel like I received bhakti from them, the faith from them, and then definitely the holy Dham, going to the holy Dham, particularly Vrindavan, and feeling Krishna's presence there, and the deities, feeling Krishna's presence in the deities, feeling Krishna's presence in his name, in Kirtan, but like you said, specifically japa, right? And then ultimately reading Prabhupada's book, Srimad Bhagavatam, specifically because, you know, it's important. Prabhupada says that philosophy without character is meaningless. So when we see devotees who have this character, then we have faith in the philosophy. But then also character without philosophy is meaningless. So then when you read the philosophy and you realize that this is the highest philosophy, nothing can beat this, and this answers all of the questions that I've ever had my whole life. It's just, yeah, it's like, it's just, it just gives you that faith.
So what gives me faith in Krishna consciousness is that when I think about the different verses, when I think about serving the devotees, I get relief from negative qualities that I have, and I become at ease. So I just think about the devotees, or I think about serving them, or I remind myself of a certain verse and what that verse says and the purport on that verse. And also when we pray, the prayers get answered, and it's kind of scary. And also when the classes lay over, when the topics from one class carry over to another class and then carry over to another class, and just, yeah, a lot of synchronicities. Yeah, there's some other stuff, but yeah, those are some things that give you faith in Krishna consciousness.
For me, it's reflecting and seeing how he just like masterfully coordinated everything. So looking back and really seeing his hand in everything. Hand and foot.
For me, it may seem a little bit selfish, but it's the joy I feel because, you know, like we all always smiling, just dancing every morning. You know, at first it might feel a little weird sometimes when we first wake up and we're just a little tired, but it wakes you up. And so for me, every time that, you know, I'm around devotees, it's just like it's a whole different life compared to, you know, like how I just came back where I was with my family, and there's a lot more negative in the world. But here it's just like, it's like an oasis. So it's very blissful and joyful.
Yeah, sometimes it's very tangible when you go to a different setting and it's like, oh my God. You come back with the voice like, that's a relief. I remember one time I took my mother to New York City. I was in DC, so she came visit and she said, I want to see New York City. I said, okay. And so took her to New York, and we had a tour all day. I was miserable. Like, oh my God. Because previously, like whenever I go to New York, I would just stay at the Bhakti Center. I remember spending one summer at the Bhakti Center, and I did not step a foot outside the Bhakti Center, like the entire summer. I was there, and then we'd go to Harinam in the evening, and that was it. You know, like that's enough for me. Like I've seen New York City, even though we just go around the clock. And then yeah, that was like my first time actually doing the whole tourist thing. I was so bad. and people were being mean to me. I mean, New Yorkers are mean anyways, but they were not mean to me the first time when I was there. But even that one day, like, people were being mean, saying nasty things. I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to go to the Bhakti Center in the evening. See how I'm over there. It's like an oasis in the end of the day. And it happened to be my birthday too, so that was awesome. But cool thing was, I was thinking I gotta go. I want to go. It was Thursday night, so it's a kirtan that night, and I thought let me buy some flowers on the way. So I bought a bouquet of flowers, and I got there, and I put it in the donation box. And the kirtan was going on. It was nice, and I was thinking. I thought in my head, I was like, I was thinking like I know they'll offer the flowers later, but I thought wouldn't it be nice if he's offering now. As soon as I thought it, like right at that moment, Pujari was doing art. I think it was possible. He reached out, he took a flower from the bouquet and he put it at Krishna's feet. Like, wow, he hears. But yeah, it's like exactly. It just so happens. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that was really cool. Things like that, of course. But also, for me, just the philosophy. That was the last point, which was already out of time, actually. Krishna consciousness, especially as Prabhupada brought it to the West, is not just a cultural movement. Krishna consciousness, as presented by Lord Chaitanya, the Goswamis, Nectar of Devotion, is called the science of Bhakti Yoga. So it is a science. Perhaps it's not an empirical science, how empirical science is defined as into this world. But it is a science in the sense that if you apply certain things, you will see certain results. You'll feel and experience it. That's the thing, it's a spiritual science as well. So it can't just be measured by empirical tools. It is a spiritual science. It's like when your soul experiences something. How do you measure that? So it's hard to measure. So it's so it is a science actually, and not just a cultural thing. Of course, any religion will come in a cultural setting, cultural packages. That's how it is. And so Krishna consciousness comes in a certain setting, and there's certain ideas of Vedic culture, there's clothing, this and that. But the point is that no, it is a science, and it's not just about the culture. It's not just, of course, many people like it. Some people are like, I don't like it, or whatever. But the point being, I remember years ago when I was very new in Krishna consciousness, I was visiting Denver, and Hirananda Maharaj was there. I spoke with him, and I asked Maharaj a question, and I said, shouldn't we provide some culture? Like, ISKCON has so much culture, and the world needs culture. And Maharaj said, no, it's not a cultural movement. And it's like, okay, it's scientific movement. You apply the principles, you apply the process, and you will see results. As all of you were saying, how you all feel Krishna in your lives. So it is not based on externals. And of course, when one takes a Krishna consciousness, especially in the West, sometimes a whole overhaul is needed, and where it's like you change your entire way of life, with food, with clothing, your friends, and everything. It's needed because you need it's like a hard cut from the material entanglement that's been there for a while. Sometimes with Indians who join, they might not need it as strongly as as Americans. And but initially, for the initial phase, one needs it to move into the ashram, shave your head, and all the things. So that's there, but that's not the crux of Krishna consciousness. The crux is the philosophy, the practice, the japa, really applying this principle, really becoming more humble than a blade of grass, not just memorizing the Shikshashtakam and saying it loud without thinking about it. It's like you really got to think about it, really got to apply it. And it takes time, it takes effort, but nothing worthwhile is nothing worthwhile get without any effort. So Krishna consciousness is the same thing. All these various practices can't be done should not ideally be done just mindlessly, mechanically. Be it japa, be it service, all these things. The more we go internally and do it with a lot of intention, the more Krishna reciprocates with us. So yeah, it's just to make that point, it's not just a cultural movement, and there's culture along with it, sure. but that's not the crux of it. And that's why people were attracted to Prabhupada. That's why people take up Krishna consciousness, because it's real. When you actually practice, you can feel it, you can tangibly feel it. And I can speak for myself. I'm sure all of you also, you can feel it. And, you can see it, you can see how Krishna's, as somebody pointed out, Krishna, you see Krishna's hand, Krishna's arranging things and so forth. You can see it. And the thing is that vision, you can only have that when you really practice Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, as other people pointed out, it's just coincidence. That's all happened. But that was my final point. And I guess I did want to address there was some point brought up in one of the previous classes. That was, but about the yajna. There's one point about these donkeys. But yajna has always been there. The yajna for today's age is Sankirtan yajna, and offering grains and foods to Krishna. That's prasadam. There used to be animal sacrifice, but the priest did not eat the animal. That was not there. That was not the point of the yajna. When that happened, when that started happening, does anyone remember what arose because of that? Yes. Kamal is young, fresh horse or bison or whatever stuff. The Kali worship was sacrifice animals and eat them. That's good. After that's why Lord Buddha started the whole, Buddhism movement. But it's like, no, this is wrong. Basically, you can't just sacrifice and for the sake of eating. I mean, that's no better than Chick-fil-A. We just burn the animal, we gotta eat it. It's pretty much. So he was like, no, this is horrible. You must stop it. It's a whole historical thing that lasted for centuries. Buddhism was so big in India and in Southeast Asia for centuries till Shankaracharya came. I was like, all right, let's look at the Vedas. And so, but the yajnas were there for a reason, but they were not just for. So that point about just like, you can offer a yajna and so forth, doesn't really line up with the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And of course, with sorry, I know we gotta go to campus. I need to stop. Sorry, but one last breakfast. Is it out there already?
No, I mean we need to go to
Yeah, I know breakfast. All right, if you could check. Is it? If you could check if it's outside or it's coming in. But like Krishna also, he reciprocates with everybody individually, right? Oh, there you go. Here's breakfast. And so same thing as us, as devotees of Krishna, we also have to meet people where they're at. Bashing people does not really do much. And we really have to see where they're at, what they're, just who they are, and so learn more about them, and then share Krishna consciousness with others. And just be genuine, There's no need to water down the philosophy. There's no need to fire and brimstone. Just be genuine. Just share the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Because the thing is, when something is true, it has an impact. And the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is true, because they're principles. These are principles that are applied everywhere, that are just real, like modes, the three modes. It's just real, it's true. You can feel it. And you explain it to people, they're like, oh yeah, I know my friends who are in the mode of ignorance. I'm not, but they are. But they can understand, these are true things. So when you share it, it makes, they can feel it to some degree, depending on how covered or uncovered their consciousness is. One need not be heavy. One need just have some experience in Krishna consciousness and some faith, especially things that you have actually experienced in your Krishna consciousness. If you share that, it makes a lot of impact because you're speaking from your realization. So for whatever reason you're practicing Krishna consciousness, if you share that with people, it will have an impact. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about one of the 2 points that it's okay if people are vegans. It's a decent principle. They're trying not to kill animals, especially as devotees, we can appreciate it at least. And there's no need for, in the ideal world, I guess I'll just wait for breakfast to line up and stop them. But in the ideal world, there was a study done by some professors or researchers, and the study was about what is the best land use. And according to their research, the best land use was, of course, growing crops and everything, but just having few animals, but for like cows, but mostly for the milk, and not actually killing them. And they were saying that's best for the land. And this is not devotees, this is regular folks. And I had the research paper, I gotta find it. I've been trying to find it for a while. I have it somewhere in my emails. But yeah, and it's perfect, it's having some cows, getting some of the milk products, and growing grains and so forth. So that's the ideal situation, but the world is so crazy. So yeah, so some people responding like, no, we don't want slaughterhouses and so forth. So, because they don't want animals to be killed. So that can be appreciated. Of course, I'm not vegan myself. I like my cheese. You offer it to Krishna. It's right there. Yeah. All right. I guess breakfast